I think we also have to, the sort of disinformation challenges of generative AI in both kind of general public discourse are huge, as all of us know. And it's very easy to see all the kind of dystopian examples of this. And, from pedestrian stuff like university students who are looking for a bibliography about something, getting sort of plausible sounding but fictitious title, author, journal name, whatever, for something that doesn't exist.
Right.
Because the large language model has gone out and found somebody who's an expert in that field and written a plausible title, and they assigned it to some random page number in a journal, and it's not a real thing. And then the student goes and asks the professor who supposedly wrote this article, and the professor says, I don't think I wrote that article, but let me check. And then he comes back and says, no, I did not write this article. I have no idea what that is. So that sort of thing is going to be a serious challenge.
My name is Augustin. I am with the Cyber Express. Welcome to the session. So I think one of the things that you began by is the fact that there is still a massive oversight. People underestimate the importance of cybersecurity. So could you basically lead us with that?
So I think the good news is it's a lot better than it's been in the past for all of us who've been in the field for a while. So if I think back to the sort of beginning of the study, one of the things that was actually heartening was that 75% of the respondents said that our sort of board of directors and executives consider cybersecurity to be a really important thing and a risk to be managed at the top level, and they want to see it treated as such, just like you do with financial risk and sort of all the other sort of longer established disciplines, shall we say. So I think if you were to go back 5 years, that percentage would be lower for sure.
Right.
So that's still another way to look at this is that's still a quarter of people who don't say that. And so hopefully that quarter of people will see the light in the near future. But I think we've come a long way, certainly in the sort of level of visibility of cybersecurity, which is a double-edged sword, right? The good news is it's more visible, and so more people care about it. The bad news is that when things go wrong, that's more visible too. So, and also you're more likely to be sort of called to account for the things that you want to invest in, because you're starting to see boards have a cybersecurity subcommittee with board members who've actually taken the time to learn a fair bit about cybersecurity, or indeed people asking people to join their boards that actually have real cybersecurity expertise, depending on the company you're talking about.
Got it. You also pointed out that, it is still reactive. Okay, so we don't need cybersecurity unless things are going wrong. So there should be a massive change here, because this problem has been there for a while, it's still going on. So how can there be more awareness, especially in this regard?
Sure. So this is where the outcome-based security approach that I've been speaking about here at the conference today really comes in, because there's always going to be a certain level of reactivity that's required by cybersecurity as a discipline, because when there's an incident, you actually need to deal with it. And those never happen at convenient times, sadly. But so leaving that aside, right, because there's incident response and there will always be incident response, the sort of best you can do is make sure to try to minimize the number of incidents that you're going to be faced with, and also to do all the things that you can to minimize the actual damage caused by those incidents. So putting that to one side, the thing that you can do with outcome-based security that helps you become more proactive is by focusing on, here are the three, it should be a small number, right? The number of sort of top level key outcomes that your business is trying to achieve. We're trying to introduce a new product in 5 markets. We're trying to enter this new market this year. We're trying to reach this new group of customers, things like that are sort of very business oriented and top level. And looking at your security investments and saying, do these help us do those things? If they don't, then that doesn't mean necessarily that you should get rid of them, because there's a sort of baseline level of security that you need. And you also have to comply with data protection laws and so on and so forth. Those things are not optional. But having that set of business outcomes as a lens through which to look at the things that you do in cybersecurity, the things you invest in, the things your people work on, etc., and saying, how does this help? Because if it doesn't, maybe we should stop doing it. Maybe we should stop investing in this particular control or this particular technology or whatever it is. And it's always worth asking that question, and being focused on those business outcomes gives you a really good tool with which to do that.
Okay, so how do you basically identify these core metrics of outcome-based cybersecurity?
Oh, they're literally your key company goals for the next, 3 years, 1 year, 5 years, however your company tends to plan. So one sort of easy, facile way to do this is, what's the 3 things that your CEO put in the annual letter to shareholders? Like, these are the things we're going to do between now and 3 years from now. And there's usually a very short list. So agree with your stakeholders, say, okay, this is what it looks like our desired business outcomes are. Are these right? Now, if your business stakeholders say, yeah, ignore what the CEO put in the shareholder letter, you probably have other problems. But assuming you'll come to a set that you agree on between yourself and your various heads of business units and your head of sales and all that kind of stuff. And then you as the security leader go and you take all of your security investments and you look at them and go, how is this helping us deliver those outcomes? If it's not, then we should take a closer look at it and see, is this a thing worth investing in? Or, okay, we have this new outcome that our business is pursuing that's different from something we were pursuing last year, say. And do we have the adequate investments to actually go after that and support delivering that business outcome? If we don't, then there's some new things we need to invest in, or there's some new training our people need. We need to bring in some new people. It could be anything. But looking at things through that lens is really helpful, and it's pretty simple because your shareholder letter should be pretty easy to get hold of.
Right. Okay, so in terms of basically communicating with the board, or migrating from basically understanding the business goals, what are the key metrics that a CISO of a company can basically step in? Because of course the goals are set by the CEOs and the board. So how instrumental can the CISO be in identifying how to best enable outcome-based cybersecurity approach? So that's your sort of one of your bigger challenges as a CISO, actually, is to take those business outcomes and say, right, how am I going to contribute to those business outcomes, and how am I going to communicate that contribution? Because what you're doing is, or should be, contributing to those business outcomes. The challenge is articulating it. And so the metrics are going to vary depending on what the outcomes are, right? And so what you want to do is sort of draw a chain, as it were, from, okay, we're investing in this, we're putting this control in place. So let's take, this is always easier with an example. So let's say you're in a consumer-facing business and you sell product online. One of the things that you absolutely need to do is enable the maximum number of customers to buy products easily, whilst still actually defending against fraudulent transactions, right? You want to set the threshold just high enough that you catch most of the fraud, but not so high that you discourage a bunch of perfectly legitimate customers just because they're on vacation, they forgot the phone number that they used when they signed up, whatever it is. And so if you've got a business outcome like that, which is we want to increase online sales by 10%, then you would show, okay, we decreased the number of customers who got chucked out of the purchase process who were actually perfectly legitimate customers. And we know this because last year we had N% drop off. And this year we had, N minus 4% drop off, and we got fewer calls to the customer service hotline saying, hey, I was trying to buy this product and your system won't let me, even though I've bought this product from you 4 times before. Right.
So that's a sort of very concrete example, but maybe it helps illustrate the kind of thing that you want to do in this outcome-based security approach.
Got it. So now that, it's also called the hot summer of AI right now. So how can you basically combine AI with outcome-based security? Okay,
so let me take this in parts because there are a bunch of different ways to use AI and machine learning in a security context. So there's the security tools that use various flavors of machine learning or artificial intelligence or whatever to improve detection rates, say, right, or minimize false positive rates, or you get sort of automation of various kinds of tasks or whatever. That's actually a fairly long-standing thing. And so there have been plenty of companies offering solutions that take advantage of the possibilities of various kind of machine learning models that are particularly useful for things like sort of monitoring user behavior against baseline and all that kind of stuff, so that you get a system that learns what the sort of baseline activity of your set of users are, and so that it can basically raise a flag when people start behaving strangely, or when systems start behaving strangely.
Right.
So that's a fairly well-established thing, and that will kind of continue to improve because, of course, it never works as well as everybody says it does, etc. So that will continue to improve over time. What's, I think, new sort of in the world, of course, is generative AI. And sort of all the, like, you've all seen everybody's favorite ChatGPT examples. You do not need any more of them. I think the sort of direct current challenge for us in the world of information security is pedestrian stuff like, man, generative AI is good at writing really convincing looking phishing emails on a really large scale. And so that means that we've got to have better detection, and we've got to have sort of better training for the sort of all the kind of phishing exercise training that we all have to do as corporate employees has to get better, et cetera, to deal with that. And I think we also have to, the sort of disinformation challenges of generative AI in both kind of general public discourse are huge, as all of us know. And it's very easy to see all the kind of dystopian examples of this. And, from pedestrian stuff like university students who are looking for a bibliography about something, getting sort of plausible sounding but fictitious title, author, journal name, whatever, for something that doesn't exist.
Right.
Because the large language model has gone out and found somebody who's an expert in that field and written a plausible title, and they signed it to some random page number in a journal, and it's not a real thing. And then the student goes and asks the professor who supposedly wrote this article, and the professor says, I don't think I wrote that article, but let me check. And then he comes back and says, no, I did not write this article. I have no idea what that is. So that sort of thing is going to be a serious challenge over the next little while. And all of us in the information security world aren't necessarily experts on combating disinformation, most of us, but I think we're going to have to bring that expertise into our organizations, because there's going to be more and more of it, not just flooding the kind of public discourse space, but trying to confound our company's operation in ways that I honestly don't think we have great amounts of visibility into yet.
Got it. So finally, do you think one of the ways to combat this is probably an AI-enabled fact-checking mechanism, probably standardized across the world? Will that solve this issue?
Not necessarily, because that fact-checking mechanism might fall foul of the same problems.
Okay.
So, I mean, the sort of the broad issue here is language model poisoning, basically. Mm-hmm. And so you have the generative AI system, like, it's learning every time it does anything. And so if you teach it a bunch of stuff that's false, then how to undo that is actually really non-obvious. And so the fact-checking mechanism is just as likely to be deceived by the same thing that deceived the thing that generated this is very meta-sounding, that generated the sort of incorrect information in the first place. So, and of course, humans can't possibly scale to fact check at that level, although sort of we're the only ones with the skills to actually do that kind of checking and to make sure that the information actually is reliable, just because you have little control over and little insight into all the sources that are going into that particular model's output.
Okay, wow, that was really insightful. So anyways, thank you so much. It was really an amazing conversation.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.